rehearsal with those high schoolers this morning, and they wiped me out. So for the rest of the day, I've been checking out clinics thinking, wow, I got to give one at the end of the afternoon. But I'm happy to be here. I flew in from New York City, where I run a citywide jazz school that I founded last year. It's something that is mainly offered to adults, but we offer classes on improvisation to really any age of kids who want to, or adults who want to develop their jazz. What we come across with most jazz musicians who studied improv a little bit in jazz band is that they know their blues scales, and it's about it. And even then, they play a blues scale and they're not sounding like B.B. King. So the teachers involved with the Jazz Academy, including myself, really are really happy to share with all of these students other ways to enter the world of improvisation. And basically, this clinic is sharing a little bit with all of you what we do in the New York Jazz Academy. We're going to take one basic workshop that we run and really sort of dissect it and take a closer look. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of what we present. As far as topics go, we don't present a lot. I mean, we keep the notes on the page really, really minimal. But I am a firm believer in improv and jazz in general to provide something really concrete to students. They have to be able to take something home. And I think if you've all studied with different jazz teachers, you've probably heard the line sometime in your life, well, you just got to hear it. And you're kind of left with that thinking, what now? I'm not hearing it! Help me out, please! So really, we try to get to the music really quickly, which means keeping the explanations to a minimum. I mean, people come to play. They're entering this workshop because they love their instrument, they want to make music on it. So if there's a way to teach on the horn, that's all the better. And that means we save the explanation for what's a Dorian scale, what's a pentatonic for after. So they've got to enter this whole framework, really trying this stuff out first. We're going to look at what it means to fragment a scale and why that's such a big deal. You almost never hear a jazz musician play a scale. They play fragments of scales and they put them together in different ways. And in the process, they end up playing something really melodic. But most melodies aren't full scales either. Even, you take a tune like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and that's almost a full scale, but it's still a melody in fragments using a major scale. We'll look at rearranging a scale. What does it mean to take the tonic of a scale and instead of putting it on the bottom and the top, putting it in the middle, and what that can do to really help the melodic and creative process in any player. It doesn't really matter what the age is or what the experience is. We're going to look at what it means to explore the tail of a scale. This is what happens below tonic, because very often tonic is it's an arrival with a thud. So we're using the scale and then, boom, we hit the tonic and, well, I guess I'm done, So I guess I'll go back up, So we're going to look at going down below the tonic in different ways. Simple storytelling. I've heard educators reference storytelling. They say, well, you have to tell a story. But again, it's the how that really gets people caught up. How do I tell a story? I don't know. What story? What are you talking about, a story? So we're going to look at what we do to give students different ways to tell a story, to equip them in different ways. We're going to look at some basic scales and see how these scales evolve depending on slight variations in accompanying chords. That'll make more sense with some examples. And we'll also look at basic scales and how you can take one basic scale and start introducing a whole lot of new harmonies. So let's begin. I guess I need to pick a side here. This is pretty much our format. If there's a high school coming in for a clinic, we get people from overseas, they'll bring in a high school band on a tour of New York, and they'll book a clinic with the Jazz Academy. So you might have 20 to 30 band kids who come in, and all varying levels. But we're assuming that the kids coming in don't have a whole lot of experience with improv, and we kind of start from the ground up. And I think that's a pretty safe assumption, unless you're dealing with a particularly celebrated high school band. But it's always hard for us to do that. We ask the director, he says, well, our kids really need to know a lot, so we started at the ground. Each kid gets a strip of paper that's just 1/8 of a page, just this tiny little strip. It's only got 8 notes on it. I've written out an example of what each instrument would see. This says bass instrument at the bottom, of course. But they all look the same. That's this sort of large print that, say, a flutist or a pianist would get up here at the top. It's just a simple... And that's essentially a rearranged pentatonic scale. It's a minor pentatonic, but instead of continuing up the scale... Actually, let's flip to the next example. This first one here. That's how we've all learned our pentatonics at first. If you look in the book, you're going to see maybe a series of pentatonics in all 12 keys, and this can be written up, sometimes written down. So basically, we really take it and fragment it a little bit. So we're looking at the symmetry between the bottom half and the upper half. The fact that the lower fragment of a pentatonic is just, and the upper fragment is, for the kids who can't process notes very quickly, we'll also write the letter names up there too. You saw on the first slide, they each have the letter names. That's okay. This isn't a test in reading. This is really a test in, or a lesson in something else. We're exercising a different part of their brain. So giving them the notes, I think that's totally fair game. So this middle example, you can see again that lower fragment and the upper fragment. And if you just kind of take the general shape of the lower half, going 1 to 5 to 1, you get... That's a nicer shape to start with when you're soloing. If you take a whole scale, that's a whole lot to work with at once. So we lob off the top and just deal with it. In the first example, the very last note is a B flat. So we have, if you loop it, it becomes something that is really, really familiar. It feels kind of like home. We listen to it, we think, okay, I can hear that melody, I understand that. Maybe this is where we can start with the examples. I want to take you through a little bit. The kids have played these 8 notes, now what? So the first thing we'll do is a little bit of call and response. And I'll tell them very simply, I'm not going to throw a curveball at you. I'm just going to start on the left, and we're going to work our way right. But you're still going to have to use your ear. So first I might give them this. Done. So, you know, again, here we're not dealing with any chords yet, anything. We're just trying to get a sense of basic scale structure. So, and it might be as simple as this. Let's go back and forth, measure each, all right? So I'll do a couple beats at a time. You come in the next measure. So if I play. We stop and we congratulate each other for this great success. Hey, guess what? We made it through half of the clinic. Look at that. We're up to the dotted line. So that's good. So then I do throw a curveball. I'll add something like this. Maybe. And now, inevitably, there's going to be a kid in that group of 30 that's going to play. It's just going to happen. Because, of course, they're not engaged by ear yet, but they are by sight, and that's the first step. Because all of these kids coming in can read. They have rehearsals where they're really familiar with reading notes in front of them. So you can give them a row of 3 notes, they're going to think, right, da, da, da. So then we try it again. And the answer is never no. We don't stop and say, no, that's it. We say, all right, let's try it again. And we just bypass the fact that, you know, maybe it was a little cluttered. So we say, okay, we'll clean it up. Let's try it again.